Good morning, everybody. My name is Cuzmegustan, and I'm going to be playing for you my favorite game of all time. This is Legend of Mana for the PlayStation 1. So without any further ado, we'll get started here. So as you can see, you have your first choice, major choice of the game. You can either select a man or a woman. I'm going to select a man. Not trying to be sexist or anything, but I mean, you gotta start off sticking with what you know. And after you select your sex, you can select your weapon of preference, and really it doesn't, I don't know how much this affects the game. Obviously, if you pick something like a two-hand sword, since you need both hands to hold it, you can't carry something like a shield, whereas if you pick just a sword, you can have an extra shield. But we'll get into that stuff later. It really doesn't affect the game too much. I'm going to stick with a two-hand axe because it's what I know and love. And now you get to select your character name, so I'm going to do that real quick, and you guys have to sit through and watch it, because what's more exciting than watching someone spell a name for a character that they're going to play in a video game? So the name I selected is Nicolaji. It's a nickname that a friend of mine gave me a very long time ago. And your final choice for the moment is selecting where on this world you want your lands to be. Obviously you can't select the darker areas because there's too much water and not enough land, but you can select anywhere that's lit up, and as you can see you have plenty of options. But where I'm going to go is where I always go, which is right down here in the corner, because this is something I'll get into a little bit later, but where you start placing your lands actually affects how, not so much how you play the game, but there are certain quests that are only available if you play, or if you place, sorry, what was I just in the middle of saying? I literally lost my train of thought. If you place certain lands next to each other, you can get certain quests, and if you don't, certain quests become unavailable to you. But I'll get into that in a bit later. So our first land to place is our mailbox, and we have anywhere that's lit up on the ground that we can choose to place it. Obviously we can't place it in the water because you don't want your home to be flooded. So I'm going to pick right here in the mountains because it's nice and defensive. No one will ever get to me, even though it's completely irrelevant. You still need to think about these things in case it becomes relevant. And with the growth of our home, a short cutscene will ensue, and I'm going to be quiet through it so that you can enjoy it. 9 centuries ago, the mana tree burned to ashes. The power of mana lived on inside mana stones, enchanted instruments, and artifacts. Sages fought with each other for control of these last remnants of mana. Then, after hundreds of years of war, as the power of mana began to wane, those who sought it grew scarce, and the world returned to peace. After that, mankind grew afraid to desire, their hearts filled with empty emotions, and grew estranged from my hands. They turned their eyes away from infinite power, and were troubled by their petty disputes. Remember me. Need me. I can provide you with everything. I am love. Find me and walk beside me. So that's basically the story of this game. Years ago, the Man Tree was this great, powerful thing that everybody wanted power from. But wars broke out, like they always do, to see who could have the most power, and whoever had the most power was the most important. And so eventually people just stopped believing in magic and stopped caring, or something like that. Anyway, there will be more on that later. This is your home, and this is you. You move around as you would expect, and you can press down the circle button to run faster. And these are treasure chests, and inside this treasure chest is 100 lucre. Now, what's funny about the money system is I'm fairly certain it's pronounced lucre because, and I never understood this when I was a kid, that lucre is short for lucrative, which implies money. I used to always call it lucre, and honestly I might accidentally call it lucre because in my head, when I say it out loud, lucre sounds weird. But let's go outside and give ourselves a little tour of our house, which is actually pretty barren. We're gonna go over this way and listen to some adorable music. And this is the Monster Corral, completely useless to us, but it will be useful in a little bit. I say a little bit, it's probably more like an hour or so. These are the workshops, and we'll go inside and listen to some cool music. And you will see that it's completely empty in here. There's going to be a path this way, and this way, but that will be much later. So right now, nothing. And then if we carry on this way and go down here, we have yet more awesome music. Oh, I guess the awesome music comes when there's actually something here. Ignore what I just said. This is our orchard, and if you thought farming was boring, let me tell you, it pretty much is, but the game does it for you pretty much automatically, so it's not that big of a deal. And that will come up later as well. So I'm going to give a quick tour of the menu. You have your scripts, you have a Menos 2-hand axe, you have armor, 3 armor slots. I believe I only have 1 piece of armor, which is the Haubrek. I'm sure I'm going to get someone yelling at me saying I did it wrong. Over here you have abilities, jump and defend. You have a bunch of other abilities, and what these abilities do is, if you use them in the correct combination, like, let's see, crouch and jump. If you fight enough battles using crouch and jump as your abilities, you'll eventually unlock a new ability, which I believe is roll. I'd have to check that because I don't have everything about this game memorized. And then over here you have special techniques, and magic, which magic comes in the form of instruments. I believe that was mentioned by the manager. And we don't have any of those, but we'll be getting them later. But we do have special techniques, and this is where your weapon probably comes in the most, I'm not sure what the term is, but it's where it matters the most, because my special technique, as you can see, is flying saw blades. But someone with a staff has a different special technique, I'm not sure what it is. Or someone with a knife has, I think it's like IS strike or something. And as you can see, I only have one, which is kind of boring. Obviously, the more special techniques you get, the more silly it is. And your abilities also affect what special techniques you gain, opposite of lose. Like setting, yeah, I don't have any of these memorized either. But if you set like retreat and push, you might get a new special technique from battling enemies. And the game will let you know that. Once you do that, it'll come up in big bold letters saying, you learned a new special technique, and then it'll tell you the name of the special technique, and then you can try it on all your foes, and yeah. So let's talk to this guy. I am a Sproutling. The world can be shaped by your imagination. Did you know that? Now, if you say, no, I didn't, Pokehell told me that the town of Domina exists, so wow, I completely butchered that, please forgive me. People say this world isn't an illusion, but the Sproutlings know. If you can't find Domina, use your imagination to find it. Here, use this. And you get AF color blocks. This is the town of Domina. So, when you get an item, and it says AF, it stands for artifact. The game's going to tell you what I'm going to tell you, so I'm going to skip through the text. Press square to select an artifact. Yes. So you press square, you select an artifact from the wheel, and you can place it anywhere that's lit up, similar to how we place our home, except this time it needs to be connecting to somewhere you've already placed. Whereas before with home, because I didn't place anything anywhere and it wouldn't have been possible for me to place it next to somewhere, I'm going to have to place it right next to my home because there's only one path of attack, as I previously mentioned. And with the addition of Domina, I think I'm going to call this an episode. Sorry, no progress was really made, but you know how these things work out. The first episode usually isn't too exciting, but I hope that you will stick with me through the rest of this, and if you have any comments or any feedback, I'm happy to hear them, because this is a learning process for everybody, and I'm interested in knowing how I can make this better. So, with that, I've been cuzmegustan, and I'll see you in the next one.